Magic and technology, voodoo dolls, chance and electricity. We're making weird science. Fantasy and microchips, building from the script. Something different, we're making weird science. Ooh, from the heart and from the hand. Why don't people understand? Weird science. Weird science. Ooh.
All right, welcome to the deep dive. Looks like we've got some seriously interesting stuff to dig into today. You guys sent us a ton of info on this Rubik's Algo thing, this trading indicator, and I gotta say I'm pretty stoked to dive in with you. It's AI, machine learning, and charts that, well, they look like freaking Rubik's cubes.
Yeah, it definitely grabs your attention, doesn't it?
Grabs it and twists it around like, what is going on here?
Right, so we're talking about a whole suite of tools here, technical analysis stuff, helping traders figure out what's going on, making those tough decisions. But it's not just like your regular indicators. We're talking AI, machine learning, the whole shebang. And it really leans into those Ichimoku cloud charts. You familiar with those?
Oh yeah, definitely spent some time in those clouds.
Okay, cool. So then, it can get pretty complex, right? But this Rubik's Algo thing, it's not just a catchy name. I think there's a real connection to the whole Rubik's Cube puzzle thing going on.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, it can't just be about the cool looks.
Exactly. So they're using this thing called dynamic scaling. Basically, the indicator is always adjusting to how the market is changing. Like solving a Rubik's Cube, right? You got to keep changing your strategy as you go, depending on what you're seeing.
Oh, I see what you mean. And with the Rubik's Cube, there's a ton of math going on behind the scenes, all those algorithms. So maybe they've tapped into that same kind of math with this indicator.
That's what it looks like. And those shifting colors on the charts, those aren't just for show. Each color is telling you something important.
So it's like a secret code, but with colors.
Exactly. Trend speed, volume, you name it. Even buy and sell signals. It's all right there in the colors. It's like a visual language for understanding what the market is doing.
Okay, now this is where it gets really trippy.
Well, think about it. This dynamic scaling, it's happening in real time. It's taking in tons of data, constantly adjusting. Imagine trying to hit a moving target, but the target is also morphing, changing shape all the time.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot.
And then that's one piece of it. There's all this other stuff going on under the hood.
Well, let's pop the hood then. I peeked at some of the code, and they're using some pretty wild stuff. Kalman filters. That's what NASA uses for their spacecraft, right?
Yep, same tech. You know how some indicators, they lag behind the market. Well, Kalman filters, they smooth out the data, get rid of that lag. So you're getting insights in real time, which is, well, kind of important when everything's moving so fast.
Makes sense. So what else is in there?
Oh, they're using KNN too. That's a machine learning thing where it looks for patterns in the past, in historical data, tries to find those rhymes in the market's behavior.
So like history repeating itself, but with stock prices.
You got it. And there's this thing called the Blackjack card counter algorithm. That one's really interesting.
Okay, now you got my attention. What's that all about?
Well, you know how card counters in a casino, they watch the cards, figure out odds. This algorithm, it's like that, but instead of cards, it's looking at price and volume, trying to find those hidden opportunities.
So it's like the market is the casino and this algorithm is trying to play the odds.
That's a great way to put it. And the best part is, from what I saw in this masterclass PDF they put together, they've actually put a lot of effort into making this stuff understandable, even if you're not, a coding whiz.
Really? Because all this sounds pretty intimidating so far.
I know, right? But they've got this whole thing about color being a language, making decisions simple. And they've even got a toolkit in the PDF, tips for different types of traders. Like they have a whole noob section. It's hilarious.
So they're not just throwing you in the deep end. They're actually trying to help you learn.
Yeah, like for vector speed, they say bright colors mean action, faded colors mean things are slowing down. Super simple.
I like it. Straight to the point. All right, well, now that we've got a taste of the tech, what about the actual trading part? What kind of strategies are they talking about using with this thing? In the sources, they mentioned 3-bar play, vector candles, even auction market theory. That's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, they're really trying to build a whole ecosystem around this Rubik's Algo. But one thing that really stands out to me is how much they emphasize psychology. In the masterclass, they keep saying, fighting against human nature is a losing battle. It's like they're designing the tool to work with how we naturally think as traders, not against it.
I mean, that makes sense. We all have our biases, and let's be honest, emotions can get the best of us, especially when there's money on the line.
Right, and they go into those 4 trading fears, remember? Being wrong, missing out, losing money, leaving money on the table. They're addressing all that head on.
So it's not just about the technicals. They're recognizing the mental game, the psychology of it all.
Exactly. Which brings us to the big question, does this thing actually work? They throw around terms like proven statistical validation, and mathematically proven. They even talk about this thing called the Stiglmaier distribution.
Wait, hold up. What's that? Stiglmaier distribution.
Okay, so you know how most models, they look at historical patterns, try to predict the future based on the past. This Stiglmaier thing, it's different. It's about present tense development, looking at how the market is unfolding right now to figure out where it's going.
Oh, so instead of just looking back, they're trying to anticipate what's going to happen next based on what's happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. And it all ties back to that dynamic scaling we were talking about. It's like this indicator is always adapting, always evolving, not just reacting to what's already happened, but trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Interesting.
Rubik's Algo, it seems like it's trying to be something more sophisticated, more in line with how markets actually work.
So it's not just about following the herd or buying whatever the guru is selling that week.
Right. You gotta think for yourself. And speaking of thinking, there's this section in the masterclass that I absolutely love. It's called Trading Like a Complete Idiot.
Wait, what?
I know, right? But it's brilliant. It's a beginner's guide with like 18 points, but it's written in this hilarious, super relatable way. Like, they describe markets as giant online flea markets and trading as gambling, but fancier.
Okay, that is pretty funny. So they're not taking themselves too seriously.
Not at all, but don't let that fool you. They're actually breaking down some really important concepts. Support and resistance, trading psychology, risk management. They make it all make sense, even if you're just starting out.
So it's like they're making learning to trade fun.
Exactly. And that ties into the whole user experience thing you were talking about. They're not just throwing a bunch of jargon at you. They're building a community, creating a language that everyone can understand. So we've got this indicator that's using AI, drawing on Ichimoku charts, speaking to us in colors, even bringing in some humor. It's a lot to process, but I think we're starting to get a feel for it. What's really fascinating to me is how Rubik's Algo is not just a tool, it's a whole philosophy of trading. It's merging the technical stuff with the psychology, making it accessible to everyone. It's not just giving you signals, it's trying to change the way you think about the market.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked tech, strategies, even the psychology behind it all. But what about the actual user experience? How easy is this thing to use? What kind of results are people seeing?
Great question. That's exactly where we'll pick up in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll take a look at the toolkit, the user interface, and what real traders are saying about their experience with Rubik's Algo.
Sounds good. Can't wait to dig in further.
Something like a recipe. Bits and pieces. Ooh, bits and pieces. From my heart and from my hand. Why don't people understand? Weird. Weird science. Ooh, weird science. My creation. Is it real? It's my creation. Is it weird? Weird science. Ooh, bits and pieces. Not what teacher said to do. Living tissue, making dreams come true. Weird science. Ooh. Bits and pieces. Ooh, my creation.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into this Rubik's Algo thing. Last time, we got pretty deep into the tech and the whole philosophy behind it. Now I want to know, like, how does this thing actually work for the average trader? Is it user-friendly, or am I going to need a PhD in computer science to figure it out?
Well, from what I've seen in the masterclass PDF, they've really put a lot of thought into making it accessible, even for those of us who, aren't exactly coding ninjas.
Okay, that's good to hear, because some of that stuff we talked about last time, that was getting pretty complex.
Oh yeah, definitely. But the masterclass itself, it's structured like a user manual, really well organized.
Right, and they've broken it down into different levels, right? Like noob, novice, nerd, all the way up to master. So no matter where you're at on your trading journey, there's a path for you.
Exactly. And they really emphasize keeping things simple. Like, they actually encourage you to just use the default settings. They spent over a year tweaking all those parameters so you don't have to.
I like that. Like, they're saying, hey, we did the hard work, you just focus on the trading.
Exactly. But don't worry, if you're the kind of trader who likes to tinker, they've got you covered too. There are tips on customizing colors, adjusting the look-back periods, even combining Rubik's Algo with other indicators.
So it's flexible, you can adapt it to your style.
Right, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. They want you to make it your own.
Now, one thing that really caught my eye was their focus on proven strategies. It's not just a set of tools, they actually show you how to use them, like the 3-bar play, vector candles, all that.
Yeah, let's take the 3-bar play, for example. You're looking for those reversals in a trend using those candlestick patterns. But Rubik's Algo, it adds another layer with those color gradients. It helps you pinpoint those reversal points with more precision.
So instead of just eyeballing it, you've got those colors as an extra confirmation.
Right, and it's not like they're making this stuff up. They're drawing on established methodologies from guys like Oliver Velez, Robert Hoffman, real deal traders.
So they're not reinventing the wheel, they're just giving it a high-tech makeover.
Exactly, and it goes back to their whole philosophy, working with human nature, not against it.
Right, and speaking of human nature, we can't forget that trading like a complete idiot section, still cracking up about that one.
I know, right? Genius marketing. But there's real wisdom in there too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, describing the market as a giant online flea market and trading as gambling, but fancier, that's just brilliant.
They're making these complex ideas relatable, even fun.
And they break down those core concepts: support, resistance, psychology, risk management, all in plain English.
Yeah, their explanation of risk management is spot on. Stop loss orders, position sizing, diversification, they make it all so clear.
It's a breath of fresh air compared to all the hype and jargon you usually see in trading education.
No kidding. They're not promising overnight riches, they're teaching you to be a responsible trader, to develop that disciplined mindset.
Okay, so they've nailed the user experience, they've got the education part down. But what about results? Do we have any idea how well this thing actually performs?
Well, the sources don't give us specific numbers, but they do keep talking about this Steidl-Meyer distribution as a core principle behind Rubik's Algo.
Right, that's the thing we talked about before, the present tense development model. Instead of just looking at historical data, they're trying to analyze the market in real time.
Exactly. They want to anticipate what's going to happen next based on what's happening right now. It's a pretty radical idea.
So it's like those Rubik's Cube algorithms, constantly adjusting, trying to solve the puzzle as it's changing.
That's a great analogy. But let's be real, no indicator is perfect. Even with AI and machine learning, there are going to be times when Rubik's Algo gets it wrong.
Right, it's not a crystal ball. You can't predict the future with 100% accuracy.
And even if the indicator is giving you good signals, there's still the human element. Traders can misinterpret things, let their emotions get in the way, make bad decisions even with the best tools.
So if not a magic bullet, you still need to know what you're doing.
Exactly, and that's where experience and critical thinking come in. No indicator can replace good old-fashioned market knowledge.
So you can't just plug in Rubik's Algo and expect to become a millionaire overnight.
Right, you still need to do your homework. And it's important to remember that Rubik's Algo shouldn't be your only source of information. You need to look at the bigger picture, the economic data, the news, everything.
So it's a tool, but it's not the whole toolbox.
Exactly. And this is where Rubik's Algo's emphasis on education really shines. They're not just giving you an indicator, they're teaching you how to think like a trader.
So all in all, it sounds like a pretty legit tool.
I think so. It's well thought out and it has a lot of potential. We're seeing the rise of AI and machine learning in trading, and Rubik's Algo is right at the forefront of that.
It's making me rethink my whole approach to trading, that's for sure. Imagine in a few years, we might all be making decisions based on colored squares on a chart.
It's wild, right? But even with all the fancy tech, the fundamentals will always matter. Understanding the market, managing risk, keeping your emotions in check. That's what it all comes down to.
Couldn't agree more. But hey, who knows? Maybe those fundamentals can be a little more fun with tools like Rubik's Algo. And speaking of fun, there's one more thing we haven't touched on yet. The game design element.
Oh yeah, that's right. They actually talk about how they design Rubik's Algo using game theory principles.
So it's not just about making trading more enjoyable, though that's a plus. They're actually using game design to make it more effective.
Exactly. They're treating the market like a game, and Rubik's Algo is your strategy guide.
Sounds like an interesting concept.
It is. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore those game design principles in more detail, see how they translate into actual trading techniques.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
Magic and technology, voodoo dolls, chance, weird science. Behind bolted doors, things I've never seen before. Weird science, not what teachers said to do. Ooh, weird science. Ooh, not what teachers said to do. Living tissue, making dreams come true. Weird science. Ooh.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been spending some time with this Rubik's Algo, and I gotta say, it's pretty wild. It's not just another indicator. It's like, well, almost like they're trying to turn trading into a game.
You know, that's a really good way to put it. In the first couple parts, we dug into the tech, the whole philosophy they've built around this thing. But what really makes it different is how they're using game theory to make trading, well, better, more engaging too.
Okay, so it's not just about making trading fun, although I'm all for that. How does game theory actually make you a better trader?
One of the big things they talk about is understanding player tendencies. Just like in, say, video games, a good designer knows how players are going to react. Rubik's Algo, it's kind of like that. It's designed to work with how traders actually behave, our biases and all that.
Makes sense. We're not always perfectly rational, especially when there's money on the line. emotions can definitely take over.
Exactly. Remember those 4 trade-in fears: being wrong, missing out, losing money, leaving money on the table. Those are powerful emotional responses.
Yeah, they could definitely mess with your head.
And the creators of Rubik's Algo, they get that. They're not trying to fight it. They're actually designing the indicator to help you overcome those fears. Like the color system, it's designed to make it really obvious when you've got a high probability setup. So you're less afraid to pull the trigger.
You're more confident in the decision.
Exactly. And the way they emphasize stop loss orders, having clear entry and exit points, it's all about managing that fear of losing money. It's like a built-in safety net.
It's interesting, they keep using the word player when they talk about traders. It really does make it feel like a game.
And if you're playing a game, you want to be in the zone, right? That flow state where you're totally focused, time just flies by.
Oh yeah, like when you're so absorbed in a game, you forget about everything else.
That's it. And the creators of Rubik's Algo, they say their tool can actually help traders get into that flow state while they're trading by keeping things simple, visually engaging, minimizing that cognitive overload. It's about making decisions more effortlessly.
So instead of getting bogged down in all the data, you're reacting more instinctively, like you're just in the moment following the flow.
Exactly. And the color radiance, that's a big part of it. Taking all that complex data and presenting it visually, making the market's language more intuitive, less scary.
Okay, that makes sense. So what other game design tricks are they using?
Well, they talk about this thing called progressive disclosure. It's the idea of introducing new information, new challenges gradually, so the player doesn't get overwhelmed.
So like starting with the basics and then leveling up as you go.
Yep, just like in a video game. And Rubik's Algo, it's structured that way too. The noob section in the masterclass, that's all about the fundamentals. Then as you move up, you get into the more advanced stuff.
So it's a built-in learning curve.
Exactly. You learn at your own pace, build your confidence as you go, and that keeps you engaged, motivated.
Motivation, that's a big one in trading. You got to stay in the game even when things get tough.
Right. And that's where feedback loops come in. In games, you get rewarded for your actions, right? It gives you that sense of progress.
Like leveling up, unlocking achievements, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Rubik's Algo, it does that too. The visual signals, the alerts, they act as those feedback loops. Like when you see a bright green candle after you enter a trade, the price goes up. It reinforces your trust in the system.
It's like it's saying, hey, you did good.
Exactly. That positive reinforcement, it's huge for building confidence. And it works both ways. If you see a bright red candle, you stay out and the price tanks. Well, that's feedback too. It teaches you to trust the signals, avoid those losses.
So even when you're not winning, you're still learning. It's like having a coach in your corner giving you feedback along the way.
That's a great way to put it. And it all comes back to developing that winning mindset. It's not just about signals, it's about thinking like a successful trader.
So we've got AI, game theory, psychology all rolled into one package.
I think so. While no trading tool can guarantee you'll make money, this one, it's definitely got something special going on. It could be a real game changer for traders who are looking for an edge.
It's certainly given me a lot to think about. I'm definitely intrigued.
Me too. And it makes you wonder, what's next? What other innovations are we going to see in the world of trading?
Yeah, that's the exciting part. It feels like we're just at the beginning of something big. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. Big thanks to everyone who sent in the info on Rubik's Algo, and a huge thanks to you for joining us today. This Rubik's Algo, it's a lot more than meets the eye.
Rubik's Algo didn't just code. They sculpted market insights with a year-long quest for perfection.
Imagine a mad scientist, but instead of monsters, they made market-predicting tools.
They sifted through thousands of indicators and the code like panning for gold, refining and testing until the best signal remained.
Use this code, and you get a year of sleepless nights distilled into a few lines of brilliance.
Rubik's Algo didn't just build an indicator. They crafted a trading system using the science of Six Sigma.
It's a symphony of data as a language of color, helping traders reduce risk and improve trade decisions.
Forget outdated charts. Rubik's Algo cracked the market using the Rubik's Cube's 43 quintillion possible combinations.
The Rubik's Cube is used as a dynamic model for understanding market permutations.
Just as speedcubers use algorithms to solve the cube, market makers use algorithms to sequence order flow.
Why are you using yesterday's indicators for today's trades?
Rubik's Algo, it's more than meets the eye.